Our presence here today reaffirms our unwavering solidarity with the people of Sudan. It is incumbent upon all of us, member states and people of goodwill, alike to support ongoing efforts towards a peaceful resolution while addressing the urgent humanitarian needs of those affected by this conflict, especially women and children. Only through collective commitment and decisive action can we help restore stability and hope for a peaceful future in Sudan. Kenya continues to urge the warring parties to recognize that a military solution, if any, will not and has never brought sustainable peace. We encourage all Sudanese stakeholders to commit to a political resolution through genuine and inclusive dialogue. We continue in Kenya to provide a platform for different actors, political groups, civil society groups, to forge agreement, consensus on the way forward. And as a steadfast advocate for peace, Kenya, alongside IGAD, remains fully prepared to support and facilitate efforts towards a negotiated settlement. It is also imperative that we work together to alleviate the suffering of our Sudanese brothers and sisters. This crisis is worsened by the massive displacement of civilians, with an estimated 11 million people forced to flee their homes. The collapse of healthcare systems, the spread of preventable diseases, and the deterioration of medical infrastructure have further deepened humanitarian emergency. The crisis' regional impact is equally severe as neighboring countries are struggling with overstretched social services due to the growing refugee crisis. This situation demands urgent regional and global intervention. Any discussion of the humanitarian crisis in Sudan must acknowledge that this is a man-made disaster. It is deeply regrettable that the dire humanitarian situation in Sudan stems from a political crisis that has escalated into prolonged and senseless armed conflict. The obstruction of humanitarian access by parties to the conflict is simply unacceptable. We call upon all involved to facilitate unrestricted access for humanitarian convoys and healthcare workers, and to allow the resumption of agricultural activity in areas under their control. At the Humanitarian Pledging Conference for Sudan held in Paris in April 2024, Kenya pledged $1 million to support humanitarian efforts in Sudan. I am pleased to reaffirm that Kenya will fulfill this pledge with an additional $1 million to demonstrate our support for the Sudanese people. Finally, we urge all external actors supporting the warring parties to refrain from actions that further endanger the lives and future of the Sudanese people. As members of the African Union and the United Nations, we must uphold the fundamental principles of respect for territorial integrity, national sovereignty, and good neighborliness in our pursuit for lasting peace and stability in the Sudan. I thank you for your attention.
This crisis is not just Sudanese. It is a regional and a global concern, impacting lives, livelihoods, and stability across the Horn of Africa and beyond. Global solidarity is essential to ensure the Sudanese people receive food, clean water, basic health care, including vaccines and medicines, and protection against violence. As the holy month of Ramadan approaches, urgent action is required, not just in words, but through tangible commitments to elevate suffering. Ethiopia will continue to stand with Sudan in its time of need, sharing from our limited resources and maintaining an open door policy for Sudanese seeking refuge. We urge donors, international organizations, and the private sector to increase their contributions and help bridge the severe resource gap faced by humanitarian actors. Despite our own challenges, we firmly believe that a neighbor in need is a neighbor indeed. Therefore, Ethiopia pledges a modest contribution of 15 million USD in solidarity with the people of the Sudan. Beyond this immediate assistance, the crisis demands an urgent political solution, as peace is the foundation for lasting recovery. We call upon all stakeholders to intensify efforts toward dialogue and a peaceful resolution. I urge all Sudanese stakeholders to choose peace and guide their nation toward unity and prosperity. Ethiopia fully supports a Sudanese-led, Sudanese-owned, and inclusive peace process. We also endorse the African Union Commission and the UN Secretary General's efforts to streamline initiatives and establish a single effective platform for peace in Sudan.
The UAE has provided over $400 million to support the Sudanese people in Sudan and neighboring countries who have so generously welcomed Sudanese refugees. Today, we reaffirm our commitment to the people of Sudan by announcing an additional $200 million in humanitarian funding. This support reflects our unwavering solidarity since the last decade alone. We have stood by our brothers and sisters in Sudan with $3.5 billion over the past years. Excellencies, we all agree that the Sudanese people have the right that must be upheld. They have the right to be safe. They have the right to food. They have the right to the basics of life: medical care, clean water, and shelter. These rights cannot be politicized, nor should they be challenged in bureaucratic processes or mechanisms. This platform underscores how important it is for the international community to intensify its efforts to ensure that humanitarian assistance is able to reach those in need. It is essential to highlight that no entity should have the right to abruptly challenge life-saving humanitarian assistance, and all parties must abide by their obligations under international humanitarian law. We reiterate our call on parties to the conflict to immediately guarantee safe and unhindered humanitarian access throughout Sudan, to protect aid workers and humanitarian facilities, and to cease attacks on humanitarian operations. The urgency of this moment cannot be overstated. The UAE stands firm in its support of the Sudanese people. I thank you.